The secret revealed. The Monad, a scholastic poem. In realms of thought where wisdom seeks to find a spark of truth, a glimpse of the divine, the Monad stands, an ancient, boundless grace, a beacon bright, from timeless, sacred space. The Pythagoreans first, this concept knew, an origin, from which all numbers grew, a unity, that binds the cosmic frame, the Monad stands, the source from whence they came. Plato's forms, eternal, pure and true, within the Monad's light, they find their hue, for in this font of being, they reside, the essence of all things, it does provide. A wellspring deep, of wisdom's potent brew, the Monad calls, for seekers, brave and few, to plumb the depths, of truth's unfathomed sea, to glimpse the unity, of all that be. Neoplatonists sought to reconcile, the Monad's role, with thought's labyrinthine style, Plotinus won, beyond all words and sight, yet Monad stands, as truth's eternal light. Gnostic sects, with mystic secrets blessed, within their texts, the Monad they professed, a spark divine, that animates the soul, the key to life, that makes the mortal whole. From Greece, to Egypt's ancient, hallowed land, the Monad's truth, by sages was unplanned, thrice great Hermes' teachings, wisdom's scroll, the Monad's light, illuminates the whole. In Kabbalah's tree, of Sephirot's glow, the Monad shines, as Keter's crown bestowed, a radiance pure, the source of all that flows, Ein Sof, beyond all thought, the infinite shows. In Chinese thought, the Tao's eternal sway, the Monad's presence, finds a gentle way, the nameless source, of all that lives and breathes, the Tao Te Ching, a sage's wisdom leaves. Hindu Vedanta, whispers wisdom's phrase, Brahman, the One, the source of endless days, Atman and Brahman, in unity tied, the Monad's truth, in India's heart resides. Advaita's Niti sheds the veil, of Maya's dance, where senses often fail, beyond the dual, the Monad stands revealed, as Brahman's light, all ignorance is healed. In Sufi lore, the One, all secrets bears, Wadat al-Wujud, a truth that dares, to find within the heart, a glimpse of grace, the Monad's light, in Islam's mystic space. The universe's song, in numbers sings, a symphony of truth, that mathematics brings, the Monad's light, in science patterns dance the rhythm of existence, in its stance. In realms of thought, where mystics seek to find, a glimpse of truth, a spark to ease the mind, the Monad stands, a beacon pure and bright, a timeless mystery, in wisdom's light. The Monad's truth, a tapestry of thought, by sages old, with wisdom's light besought, a journey through the labyrinth of time, to seek the unity, that binds the sublime. Yet words, alas, do falter in their quest, to grasp the essence, of the Monad's crest, for in the depths, of silent contemplation, the Monad's truth, finds full illumination. So let us seek, with hearts and minds unveiled, the Monad's light, that truth's pursuit entails, for in this journey, we may come to see, the unity, that binds all things to be. A symphony of wisdom, old and true, the Monad stands, as seekers still pursue, the boundless depths, of truth's eternal shore, an ever-flowing fountain, to explore. And though our words, may stumble, halt, and sway, the Monad's light, will guide us on our way, to find, within the silence of our souls, the unity, that beckons us, to be made whole. In the beginning, before the eons turned, when chaos slept and order yet unlearned the shape of being, there arose the One, the Monad, absolute, supreme, alone. Not born of time, nor shaped by space's art, it is the source, the uncreated heart from which all multiplicities descend, the first principle without an end. Pythagoras, in sacred mystery, saw the Monad as the seed of cosmic law, the unity beneath the fractured whole, the silent pulse of the eternal soul. Plotinus, in his Enneads, proclaimed the One as beyond being, yet unnamed, the fount of emanations, pure and bright, who spills existence into endless night. The intellect flows forth, a radiant thought, the soul follows, by the One begot, each lesser tear reflecting the divine, yet never grasping the ultimate design. The Monad stands beyond all duality, transcending thought, beyond all rationality, yet in its stillness, all things find their cause, the unmoved mover, bound by no laws. In Gnostic texts, the Monad reigns supreme, the hidden God beyond the waking dream, the Pleroma's core, the ineffable light, from which the eons spring in endless flight. Sophia, wisdom, yearned to grasp its face, and fell from grace into this weary place, yet even in her fall, the monad's spark remains concealed within the fading dark. The Valentinian hymns, in solemn tone, speak of the monad as the unknown throne, the depth of silence, the abyss of might, where even angels veil their inner sight. The Church, in council, wrestled with the one, how God could be three persons, yet alone. The monad, in its purest unity, becomes the mystery of the Trinity. The Father, unbegotten, source of all, the Son, begotten, answering the call, the Spirit, proceeding, bond of love, yet all are one, as heavens high above. Augustine, in his De Trinitate, explored the monad's triune mystery, how mind and word and love intertwine, yet never break the sacred divine. The mystics, in the Zohar's sacred page, speak of Ein Sof, boundless, sage by sage, the infinite monad, without a name, who contracts to make the world a frame. The Sephirot descend, a holy chain, from Kether down to Makutha's domain, each vessel holds the monad's radiant fire, yet shatters under its desire. The Tzimtzum, withdrawal, void, and space, allows creation to find its place, yet even in the exile, the monad's light shines through the fragments of the broken night. In Sufi thought, the monad is the one, the essence of all being, never done. Ibn Arabi, in his Fusus, declared that Wadat al-Wujud is truly shared, all things exist in God, for God is all, the monad's shadow on the world's dark wall. The Tawhid, pure and stark, denies all duality, for God alone is true reality. The seeker, lost in love's ecstatic trance, finds the monad in the heart's expanse. Leibniz, in sober thought, refined the term, the monad as the soul's own firm, a simple substance, mirror of the whole, pre-established harmony its goal. No windows has the monad, yet it sees the universe through its own decrees. Each monad reflects the cosmic plan, yet none can touch another, man to man. The best of worlds, in perfect order, spins, through countless monads, where God's will begins. Hegel, in his grand system, sought to show how the monad's unity could grow, thesis, antithesis, synthesis unfold, the spirit's story, ages old. The Absolute, in self-unfolding might, becomes the monad, veiled in endless night, yet through the dialectic, it ascends, and in the end, its own self comprehends. Process theologians, in their turn, deny the monad's immutability, the old sky. Whitehead's God, in becoming, finds his way, relational, not locked in endless day. Yet others hold, in Thomistic light, the monad's changeless, eternal might, the act of being, pure and undefiled, the ground of all, yet never reconciled to time's decay, to flux, to mortal strife, the unmoved source of all created life. In physics, too, the monad finds its place, the singularity before time's race, the wave functions collapse, the quantum state, the unified field, which none can sate. The multiverse, in endless branching, blooms, yet all arise from monad's hidden rooms. The holographic principle, strange and deep, suggests the one is all we ever keep. Jung, in his analytic quest, perceived the self as monad, in the soul conceived, the center of the psyche, whole and vast, the integration of the shadowed past. The individuation, long and hard, seeks the monad's light, the final guard against the chaos of the fractured mind, the wholeness that all humankind must find. If all is one, then how shall we behave? The monad's unity, the world to save? The golden rule, in ancient texts revered, finds its root in monad, unrevealed. The Eshadon, when all things are restored, will be the monad's triumph, long adored. The omega point, in Teilhard's view, is where the monad gathers all things true. Yet some have twisted monad's holy name, into pantheism's fleeting, worldly flame. Others, in dualistic strife, have fled from monad's truth, to gods of dread. The Aryans, in their pride, denied the one, the Gnostics, in their flight, saw only sun. The Church, in wrath, has burned the heretic's book, who dared to alter monad's sacred look. Dante, in his Paradiso, saw the monad as the final, highest law, the love that moves the sun and other stars, the end of all our earthly wars. Milton, in his epic, sought to trace the monad's will in time's vast, empty space. The poets, in their longing, ever strive to capture monad, yet fall short, alive. And so, in the end, what can be said? The monad, beyond all words, is dead to human thought, yet lives in silent might, the darkness and the everlasting light. To speak of it is to obscure its face, to name it is to lose its holy grace. Yet still we seek, in faith, in doubt, in pain, the monad's truth, beyond all mortal chain. In the primordium of all that is, before syllable or substance. Before number bent itself toward plurality. Before motion discovered its own horizon. There stood the monad unpartitioned, unrelational, unwaning. Neither void nor fullness. Neither potential nor kinetic residue. The monad abided without the language of becoming. For becoming presumes the fracture of the one. Theology calls it the ground beyond ground. Metaphysics calls it the first and final irreducible. Mystics call it the concealed fire in the core of all flames. And scholars call it the point where discourse reaches limit. For the monad is not merely unity. It is unity prior to the alphabet of distinction. It is unity unmoved by comparison. Unity indifferent to measurement or scale. Ancient Hermetists testified to its singular severity, naming it the one who is alone. The rootless root from which roots draw breath. The solitary that yet engenders multiplicity. Pythagoreans held the monad as the archie of number. The mother of the dyad. The silent origin in which arithmetic sleeps. And from which geometry awakens. For number itself is the first gesture of division. And division is the first shadow cast by the one. A shadow necessary for relational ontology. But not co-equal with the one's primacy. In the theological sciences, the monad often becomes the cipher for divine aseity. For that absolute independence, which neither borrows nor begs existence. Divine simplicity is its philosophical attire. Not composite, not contingent, not collaged. A unity in which attributes collapse into essence. An essence stands without remainder. Yet warnings abound. To overdescribe the monad is to dissolve it into thought. To force upon it conceptual plurality, which would betray the very nature of the one. Therefore, the scholars of negative theology speak cautiously, saying the monad is not this, nor that, nor any predicate. For predicates are partitions, and partitions degrade the indivisible. Plotinus viewed the monad as the one beyond intellect. Not thinking, for thinking implies distinction. Not known by self-reflection. For knowledge presupposes knower and known. The one stands above being. For being marks the sphere of determinate form. And form arises only when the one refracts into many. When unity consents to the architecture of order. Thus emanation, not as fragmentation, but as the diffusion of a plenitude too abundant to remain solitary. A quiet overflowing of perfection. Without loss, without dilution. Yet critics argue. How can the indivisible overflow without dividing? How can the one yield multiplicity without contradiction? These questions haunt metaphysics like persistent shadows. The response, according to classical metaphysicians, lies in analogy rather than mechanism. For emanation is not mechanical dispersal, but metaphoric articulation of ontological precedence. The monad does not become the many. The many participate in the one. Each degree of being. A diluted echo of primordial identity. In sacred traditions of the East, the monad bears resemblance to the Brahman without qualities. The nirguna essence beyond conceptual mapping. The non-dual ground of Advaita metaphysics. Yet the traditions differ. Where Neoplatonism speaks in emanational hierarchies, Advaita asserts radical non-duality, denying ontological gradation as epistemic illusion. Still, both aim to articulate the absolute without remainder. The one without second. The source that neither acts nor reacts. For action implies relational contingency. Kabbalistic speculation names the concealed root Ein Sof. The infinite without boundary or predicate. Not a number but the ground of number. Not unity but the origin of unity itself. Such parallels across traditions demonstrate the universal reach of the question of the one. For every metaphysics must choose. Is the foundation singular, plural, or none? Some philosophers of process deny the monad entirely. arguing that reality is flux, not unity. Motion, not stasis. An interwoven fabric without solitary source. But even here, the denial presupposes a concept of unity to reject. For to call reality pure relation is to imagine relations grounded in something. The monad returns as an uninvited guest. The silent hypothesis beneath all hypotheses. The assumption that haunts its own negation. The foundation that metaphysics cannot discard. In Christian theology, the monad takes on paradoxical form. Divine unity that subsists in Trinitarian plurality. A unity that does not dissolve into singular isolation. The Cappadocians insisted. Unity resides in ousia. Distinction in hypostasis. Each person fully possessing the same undivided essence. Thus the divine monad is not numerically solitary, but metaphysically unified. A unity of essence rather than individuality. Solitary not in personhood but in nature. This became a battleground of terminology, where heresies were named by the mismanagement of unity. Sabellian collapse, Arian division. Each error rooted in the failure to parse the one correctly. Medieval scholastics adopted a more technical lexicon, distinguishing actus essendi from essence, locating divine simplicity in pure actuality. Uncomposed, unrestricted, unparticipated. For if God were composite, the monad would fracture into parts, each needing explanation outside the whole. And thus God would be contingent, not absolute. Islamic philosophers, too, in the tradition of Ibn Sina, saw the necessary existent as pure unity, whose essence is existence without admixture. The uncaused ground of all caused forms. The monad here becomes ontological necessity, the logical terminus of metaphysical inquiry, the being whose denial collapses rational coherence. For contingency cannot spiral infinitely. Yet mystics across traditions warn that intellectual articulation, though precise, is partial. For the one exceeds conceptual capture, dwelling beyond the reach of scholastic architecture. Dionysius the Areopagite insists. Names illuminate the divine only by negation. For the one surpasses affirmation, overshadowing the very categories that attempt to define it. Still, theology persists in naming. Not to constrain but to confess ignorance. Not to map but to witness. To the inexhaustible mystery of unfragmented being. In modern philosophy, the monad returns in new guises. Spinoza's substance, singular and infinite. Leibniz's monads, though plural, pointing toward unity. These systems diverge sharply. Yet each grapples with the same primordial question. How does unity relate to multiplicity? How does the absolute ground the relative? The monad stands as the conceptual fulcrum, the axis upon which metaphysical systems rotate. Whether acknowledged or resisted, it remains the unavoidable backdrop of ontology. Scientific cosmology, though empirical in method, cannot evade the echo of the monad. For the singularity at the origin of space-time bears conceptual resemblance to philosophical unity. Not equivalence, but analogy. A point of undifferentiated density, from which all structure unfolds. Though governed by physical, not metaphysical, law, yet metaphysical reflection persists. Does the singularity mirror a deeper unity? Does cosmogenesis reflect ontogenesis? Or is analogy itself a fragile bridge? The monad remains the open question. A horizon that recedes as inquiry advances. For every answer births further questions. And every concept fails to contain the one. Still, the poem presses forward. For the pursuit of the monad is inexhaustible. A scholarly pilgrimage through abstraction. A theology of intellectual chastity. In examining the monad, one must distinguish unity from uniformity. For uniformity suppresses difference, while unity grounds difference without dissolving it. This distinction underlies theological anthropology, where human persons reflect unity through communion, not by erasing distinction, but by harmonizing multiplicity. The monad thus becomes ethical symbol, inviting relational coherence, teaching that unity is not domination, but foundational alignment toward the good. In political philosophy, Unity becomes dangerous when absolutized. Tyranny masquerades as order. Enforced unity fractures the human. True unity, modeled by the monad, is neither coercive nor chaotic, but generative, allowing plurality to flourish. The monad also interrogates epistemology. For knowledge presumes knower and known, a duality that the one transcends, suggesting a mode of awareness beyond cognition. Mystics speak of this as union, a contact without collapse, a participation without possession, a knowing beyond conceptual mediation. This is not irrationality, but transrationality, where intellect bows before the threshold of the one, acknowledging the limits of discursive power. The monad also governs aesthetics. For beauty is the manifestation of unity in multiplicity, the harmony of diverse elements, recalling their origin in a singular ground. Thus art becomes metaphysical testimony, bearing witness through form and proportion to the hidden coherence underlying the phenomenological world. Music especially reflects the monad. For a single tone contains infinite overtures, and harmony unites difference without erasure, echoing the one through measured vibration. Yet the monad is not merely symbol or metaphor, but ontological claim, a proposal regarding the nature of reality, demanding rigorous defense. Critics charge: is the one merely a projection of human longing? A conceptual simplification of complexity? A metaphysical nostalgia for lost coherence? But defenders respond: complexity itself presupposes order, and order presupposes intelligibility, which in turn presupposes unity. Thus the monad is not imposed upon reality, but inferred from its structured intelligibility, a postulate necessary for coherence, a horizon enabling thought. The question persists: is the monad personal or impersonal? Does unity involve consciousness, or is consciousness itself derivative? Classical theism affirms personal unity. For intellect and will are seen as perfections, and perfections are not denied to the divine, but affirmed without composition. Philosophers of pure unity object, claiming that personhood implies distinction, and thus fractures the simplicity of the one, rendering divine unity unstable. This debate endures across centuries, with no resolution universally accepted. For the nature of absolute unity eludes definitive conceptual capture. The monad also engages the philosophy of time. For temporal succession implies multiplicity, moments stacked upon moments, a cascade of differentiated instants. The one is timeless, not as frozen eternity, but as the absence of temporal partition, a mode of being unbound by sequence. From this emerges the distinction between temporal becoming and atemporal being, a distinction crucial to metaphysical theology, and necessary for divine immutability. Yet relativity challenges classical conceptions, suggesting time is woven with space, and thus not absolute but relational, leading some to reconsider the nature of the one. Does relativity dissolve metaphysical unity? Or does it reveal deeper coherence? A unity not of stasis but of structure, not of stillness but of invariant law. Here modern physics provides analogy, though not identity, between the unity of physical law and the unity proposed by theology. The monad also governs logic. For the law of identity A is A, presupposes unity within being, without which logic would collapse. Thus the one is reflected, even in the structure of reasoning. For coherence requires constancy, and constancy echoes unity. Ethical monism also has roots in the monad, as moral order presupposes telos, and telos presupposes coherence of value, which implies a singular source. Moral relativism fractures unity, collapsing value into subjective plurality. But even relativists rely on shared principles to argue their position. Thus the one returns again, as the silent architect beneath ethical discourse, providing the horizon within which value acquires meaning. Cosmology, metaphysics, theology, ethics, logic, all circle the one like orbiting satellites, unable to escape its gravitational pull, even when attempting to deny its existence. The monad is the thesis underlying all theses. the substrate beneath argumentation, the irreducible that sustains reducibility, the unobserved that makes observation possible. And yet, the One remains hidden, not by intentional concealment, but by transcendence of the categories, through which we attempt to see. Mystics speak of union with the One, not as assimilation but as alignment, where fragmentation dissolves, and the soul remembers its primordial coherence. This is not absorption, for the self does not vanish. Rather, it is reoriented toward the source of its being. The monad is not hostile to plurality, but sustains it without envy. For multiplicity is the echo of unity, a reflection of its overflowing plenitude. The soul's longing for the One is not psychological projection, but metaphysical instinct, the echo of origin calling its children home. Even secular philosophy cannot extinguish the impulse toward unity, for coherence requires synthesis, and synthesis presupposes a unifying principle. Thus the monad remains the unspoken aim of all intellectual pursuit, the reduction of chaos to order, of plurality to intelligible harmony. But beware simplistic unity, for false unities deceive, collapsing difference prematurely, violating the integrity of the many. True unity honors distinction, upholds particularity, celebrates multiplicity as its own reflection, not as contradiction. The One is not numerical singularity, but metaphysical simplicity, a unity so profound that numbers are inadequate to describe it. The closer one draws to the monad, the more language trembles, for words are instruments of division, and division shrinks before the indivisible. Still, scholarship must speak, for silence alone yields no understanding, and articulation, though incomplete, is the necessary discipline of inquiry. Thus we speak of the One, not to capture but to gesture, not to define but to witness, to the unconditioned ground of being. The monad stands above theology, yet theology depends upon it, above philosophy, yet philosophy leans upon its shadow. The One is the hidden architecture, beneath all ordered thought, the primordial axis, around which understanding rotates. To contemplate the monad is to confront the boundaries of intellect, to stare into the luminous darkness, where distinctions collapse. Yet this is no nihilistic void, but the plenitude of unbroken being, the fullness beyond form, the silence that precedes sound. Scholars may debate its articulation, traditions may differ in emphasis, but none can evade the question of the origin and end of unity. For every inquiry begins with coherence, and coherence whispers of the One, the thread that binds all discourse, the unfragmented anchor of thought. Thus the monad endures, beyond language, beyond metaphysics, beyond all systems that attempt to contain it, a horizon that recedes yet commands pursuit. The poem nears its ending, but the topic knows no end, for the One is not circumscribed by human articulation. We conclude not with closure, but with disciplined acknowledgement of mystery unexhausted, wisdom unbound. The monad remains the question behind questions, the answer behind answers, the unity beneath unity, the One beyond number. And so the scholar must stand, at once reverent and analytic, confessing both understanding and ignorance, before the silent majesty of the monad. The monad, invocatio ad unum, in the beginning was the One, not as number but as that which precedes number, the new beyond being and non-being, the mu omicron nu whose essence is to be essenceless in multiplicity, the absolute that refuses every predicate yet grounds all predication. Before the dyad disturbed the silence, before the triad unfolded the cosmos, before the hebdomad sealed the seven spheres, there was the monad, unbegotten, unparticipated, uncircumscribed, the good that is not a good among goods, the one that is not one among many. This is no poetic fancy but the rigorous axiom of all ontology worthy of the name. Pre-Socratic intimations Xenophanes, fleeing anthropomorphic theogony, spoke of one God, greatest among gods and men, neither in body nor in thought like mortals. Yet it was the Pythagoreans who first named the principle. Mu omicron nu, the monas, the unit beyond enumeration. Source of all arithmoi, root of geometry. The point that contains the line in potency. In their sacred Tetractys. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. The monad crowns the summit. The apex of the decade. The limit that returns into itself. The first odd, the indivisible. The measure that measures without being measured. Platonic transcendence in the Parmenids, the first hypothesis strips away all attributes. If the one is, it cannot be many. It cannot move, rest, be in time. Possess sameness or difference, likeness or unlikeness. It cannot even be one. Thus the one is beyond omicron sigma alpha, beyond nu omicron, beyond lambda gamma omicron. The second hypothesis restores the whole part structure. If the one is, then it participates in being. And the moment it participates, it becomes whole and parts. Beginning, middle, end, shape, place, time. It becomes the one being. The first composite. The living cosmos in its eternal self-generation. Republic 6, the idea tou agathu. The good beyond omicron sigma alpha in dignity and power. The sun that bestows visibility and being. The anhypotheton, the unhypothetical principle. The monad that founds every hypothesis yet rests on none. Plotinian emanation Enneads v.1, 3, the one is not a being but hyperbeing. Not intellect but hypernoetic. Not life but the source from which life overflows. The one does not think, for thought implies duality. It does not will, for will implies lack. It does not create, for creation is beneath it. Rather, it is the infinite power to be, delta nu alpha mu iota tau nu pi nu tau omega nu. From which being, intellect, and soul proceed. By necessary, non-temporal, non-volitional emanation. The one remains undiminished in its superabundance. It is the good not by intention, but by the sheer fact that all things strain toward it. As plants toward light. Contemplation, theta epsilon omega rho alpha, is the activity of intellect. The one is beyond contemplation. The object that is not an object. The beloved that loves nothing yet is loved by all. Procline Henology Proclus, in the Platonic Theology and Elements of Theology. Enumerates 216 propositions on the one. Prop 1, all multiplicity participates in the one. Prop 5, every manifold is posterior to the one. Prop 113, every God is above being, above life, above intellect. The first God is the one itself. The Henads, the supra-essential gods, are the unparticipated monads that mediate between the absolute one and participated being. Each Henadic series is a monad illuminating its members. The one remains utterly transcendent. Yet through the law of mean terms, mu epsilon sigma tau eta, and remaining precession reversion, mu omicron nu pi rho omicron delta omicron pi iota sigma tau rho omicron phi. All things are linked in unbroken continuity. The one is not jealous. It bestows unity on all levels without leaving itself. Iamblicius and the Chaldean correction Iamblicius insists, the one is utterly ineffable. Even more withdrawn than Plotinus allowed. Between the one and intellect lies the Henad of pure being. Then the intelligible triad. Then the intelligible intellective gods. Theurgy, not mere theoria, is required. To ascend to the flower of the intellect. And beyond to the flower of the soul. Where union with the one becomes possible. Through ritual enactment of divine names and symbols. The Chaldean oracles. The monad is the principle that remains within the paternal depth. Yet extends a second monad as intellect. Fire is the symbol, the paternal monad is the invisible fire. The second monad the visible flame. Christian appropriation and controversy Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite. The thearchic superessentiality. Hyperagios thearchia. The cause that is not a cause among causes. The darkness of unknowing brighter than light. Eugenia translates. Superessentialis et plus quam necessaria necessitas. The one creates without motion. Knows without discursion. Is all things causally while remaining none of them in essence. Yet the Christian monad is personal. The Father who begets the Son. and spirates the spirit in eternal perichoresis. The Cappadocians had already warned. The three hypostases share one ousia. But the monarchy of the Father preserves Henotic primacy. Maximus the Confessor. The monad expands into triad. Without division or confusion. Then contracts the many back into itself. In the eschatological Henosis. Medieval and Renaissance developments at heart. Istigkeit ist Gott. The Godhead beyond God. The groundless ground, ungrund later appropriated by Bohm. The pure one in which distinction collapses. Nicholas of CUSA. The non-aliad. The not other that is not other than any other. The coincidence of maximum and minimum. The pausiest that is simultaneously pure possibility and pure act. The infinite circle whose center is everywhere. And circumference nowhere is the monadic symbol par excellence. Modern misreadings and reductions. Hegel mistakes the one for the negation of negation. The absolute idea that unfolds itself dialectically. And returns to itself enriched. This is not the monad but the bad infinite. Leibniz reduces the monad to windowless substance. A multiplicity of composable monads. Harmonized by pre-established concord. The true monad has no windows because it needs none. It is not one substance among others. But the source of substantiality itself. Gnostic and Hermetic witnesses Basilides, 365 heavens emanate from the non-being God. The Ogdoad, the Hebdomad, until the final monad. That is the seed of the cosmos. Valentinus, the Bathos Ensage in the Pleroma. The primal monad and its thought. Whose fall produces Sophia and the Demiurge. Corpus Hermeticum. God is the monad that begetting monad. And shining forth in it a single light. Poimandras, the nous monad descends into nature. And ascends again, stripping off the 7 planetary garments. 11 Mathematical and ontological precision in category theory, the terminal object is monadic. The unique morphism from any object to one. In set theory, the empty set is the monad. From which all sets are constructed by iteration. In topology, the indiscrete space is monadic unity. Yet these are shadows. The true monad is not the unit of a structure. But that by which any structure is possible. It is the identity functor. The functor that maps every object to itself. And every arrow to itself. The trivial monad whose Claysley category is the category itself. Apophatic conclusion. We have spoken much. Yet the monad remains unspoken. Every name is not its name. Every attribution is a betrayal. It is the silence after the last negation. The darkness in which Moses entered on Sinai. The cloud of unknowing where the soul is blinded. And finally sees. It is not solitude but the abolition of solitude. Not unity but the annihilation of multiplicity. In the fire that consumes without consuming. Therefore let every tongue fall silent. Every intellect be humbled. Every heart be still. There is only the one. And even this is saying too much. In the name that is above every name. The monad beyond the monad. The silence that speaks all things. Amen. The Monad, an extended scholarly poem. In the beginning before beginning was minted. The undivided principle, antecedent to all division. Exists alone, monad source, summit, ground of being. That which precedes number, precedes structure, neither counted nor named. Not an entity, not yet concept nor form. Monad, in sacred tongue, is ineffable unity. Indivisible, irreducible, pure, primordial origin. Conceived by the ancients, yet older than thought. It is that which renders cosmos possible, number actual, logic viable. Monad, first principle, prime cause. Unconditioned, beyond comparison, no peer nor rival. Where all multiplicity collapses back into its singularity. Every motion, every form, every time. Emerges from and returns to monad's infinite simplicity. Pythagoras, who sought the music behind matter, beheld the monad as divine, supreme, the womb of number. Not merely a cipher, but the ingress of the occult. Where creation's seed rests potent. Where dyad, triad, tetrad, and myriad arise. Yet the monad remains unfragmented. Impartial to expansion or contraction. Source of every possible continuum. Plato, philosophical priest of forms. Receives from unwritten doctrine the pairing, monad and dyad. The one and the indefinite, principle and potential. Describes the monad as both unity and the font of unity. From unity pours forth multiplicity. From unicity blossoms differentiated being. From what cannot be counted, emerges number. But the monad, unfathomable, eludes grasp. Transcending categorical predicate, surpassing conception. No eye beholds it, no sense apprehends it. Monad is that which only intellect, in brief revelation, glimpses as both foundation and superstructure. Being of beings, the shining absence of all limitation. Leibniz, inheritor and innovator, articulates the monad in modern tongue. Substance without extension, microcosmic mirror. Each monad, soul-like, reflects totality of universe. No window, no passage but divine pre-established harmony. Monads, according to Leibniz, are plural, indivisible. Each a universe entire, yet none contains the other. All synchronized, orchestrated by primordial mind. For Leibniz, monad is not mere atom nor principle. It is locus of perception, interiority, mind. Countless monads exist, coordinated, unified. Yet the supreme monad, God Self, contains all without partition. Architect and legislator, eternal legislating force. The Gnostics, inheritors of secret tradition, declare monad as ineffable monarch. Beyond even God, since all divinity finds root therein. Invisible, incorruptible, absolute perfection. No multiplicity in monad. All is folded within its purity, not merely as potential, but as actual, divine reality. Father above all, unknown, unknowable. The heart of spiritual light into which no vision penetrates. Hermetic science hints. Monad begets monad, source begets emanation. From unity flows plurality, then return. A cosmic rhythm, divine breath, immanent and transcendent. Leibniz, confronting mind-body dualism, asserts pre-established harmony. Every monad's motion rendered consonant by divine fiat. No soul moves apart from the monad's guidance. No body exists except as mirror of the ensouling one. In Christian metaphysic, monad is logos, the word. Unbegotten source, ground whose singularity infuses the cosmos with purpose, order, grace. Patristic theologies converge. Augustine, Origen, Aquinas. All encounter the limit of speech, instruction falls silent. For monad cannot be demonstrated, yet every proof returns to it. Islamic philosophy, in traversing divine unity, identifies monad with Tawhid, absolute oneness of Allah. Every name, every attribute, every action emanates from and finally dissolves into the ineffable one. Every creature's contingent existence finds its anchorage in the necessary, singular monad. Kabbalist scholars, in holy tongue, discern Ein Sof, infinite one, as monad transcending attribute, from which all sephiroth descend, all worlds arise. Monad not as quantity, nor even essence, but as superessential fullness, void, apex, and abyss. The zero that generates infinity. In the language of controversy, scholars variously reject and reclaim the monad. Materialists deny its necessity, demanding mere physical atom. Idealists reclaim it as the indispensable ground. Dualists suspect the unity, fearing collapse of distinction. Yet every system, every theorem, must posit unifying principle or remain incoherent, unmoored. Monads and soul. Immortal, indivisible, eternal. Neither transmigrated, nor consumed, but preserved, each monad's perception unique. Each soul's reflection recalibrated in divine presence. Leibniz refutes metempsychosis, denies transmigration. For only God, the supreme monad, is perfectly dissociated from body. Hermetic traditions synchronize monad as architect, as master cause. Incarnation, emanation, return. Divine fullness pouring forth, seeming to dissipate, yet always regathering, drawing all diversity into unity. Monadology, composite of all ancient doctrine, affirming ancient Platonic ensoulment, building city of God on earth. Contemplation of monad is contemplation of divinity. Understanding monad, mind builds a kingdom not of this world. Order among monads. Moral as well as natural. Providence infuses spirit, rules through souls. City of God mirrored in the system of souls. God as ruler and legislator, architect and foundation. In monad, perfection is achieved. No evil escapes justice, no good remains unrewarded. Order is itself the proof of divine intelligence. The monad eludes reduction. Neither atom, nor point, nor substance alone. It is principle that survives deconstruction. Fact beyond dissolution, cause before causality. Thus, in every theological system, in every sacred tongue, monad is the unspeakable. That which anchors all discourse, and escapes all assertion. A treatise on henology and ontic singularity. Prolegomena, the definition of the point. Let the intellect recede from the manifold. Dismiss the sensory illusion of plurality. We begin at the asymptote of existence. The monas, the arithmetical unit, the immutable. Before the dyad sundered the silence into echo. Before the void recognized its own emptiness. There was the one. Not one among many. But the one which permits no second. It is the aseity self-derived, self-sufficient. A singularity of absolute simplicity. Devoid of parts, devoid of extension. Refusing the predicate of dimensionality. It is the point that possesses position but no magnitude. The geometric anchor of the cosmos. The seat of the continuum, yet distinct from the line. Here lies the crisis of the intellect. To comprehend that which has no perimeter. To gaze upon the center that is everywhere. And the circumference that is nowhere. Pythagorean Genesis and the Tetractys. Consider the school of Croton, where the silence was law. Pythagoras discerned the monad as the archie. It is the hermaphroditic parent of number. Male in its oddness, female in its capacity to generate. From the monad flows the dyad, the indefinite two. The matrix of matter, the introduction of conflict. The error of separation from the source. But the monad remains the Godhead, Thyon. From the one comes the point. From the point, the line, the dyad. From the line, the surface, the triad. From the surface, the solid, the tetrad. Behold the Tetractys. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. The decad completes the universal cycle. Yet all resides latently within the primary unit. The monad is the limit, paras, imposing order. Upon the unlimited, a pyrrhon, chaos of potentiality. Without this imposition of unity, the abyss is merely unquantifiable static. Platonic and Neoplatonic henology. Ascend now to the Academy, and beyond to Alexandria. To Plotinus, the monad is to hen the one. It is strictly epikena tes ousias beyond being. To say the one exists is a degradation of its nature. For existence implies a distinction from essence. And in the monad, essence and existence are coterminous. It is the hyperessential. It cannot be named, only pointed toward via apophatic negation. It is not this, it is not that. It is the unparticipated source of participation. The one emanates the nous, divine intellect. As the sun radiates light without diminishing its substance. As the fire emits heat without cooling its core. This is the doctrine of emanation, not creation ex nihilo. The monad overflows due to the superabundance of its perfection. A procession, protos, into the multiplicity of forms. Destined for a return, epistrophe, to the primordial unity. To dwell in the dyad is the trauma of the soul. To return to the monad is the flight of the alone to the alone. The Gnostic pleroma and the abyss. In the heterodox vaults of the Sethians and Valentinians. The monad is the pathos, the depth, the profundity. The ineffable Father, dwelling in silence, Sage. He is the root of the all, the pleroma of eons. Here, the monad is the pre-existent forefather. Who projected the syzygies, the paired emanations. The tragedy of Sophia was the desire to know the monad. Through the intellect, rather than through union. To analyze the monad is to fracture it. This generated the kenoma, the emptiness of the material hell. Salvation, in the Gnostic exegesis. is the gathering of the scattered sparks of pneuma. The reintegration of the fragmented consciousness back into the unblemished, indivisible monad. The Leibnizian monadology. Shift the dialectic to the rationalism of the Enlightenment. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz fractures the universal into the particular. Here, the monad is the true atom of nature. Not a material particle, but a metaphysical point of force. Nature makes no leaps, the continuum is composed of these souls. Factum I, the monad has no windows. Nothing enters, nothing departs. It is impervious to external causality. It contains within itself the total history of the universe. Past, present, and future, folded in its substance. Factum II, the monad operates by perception and appetition. It mirrors the cosmos from its unique ontological coordinate. From the dull stupor of the stone, bare monads, to the conscious memory of the animal, to the rational apperception of the spirit. Factum III, pre-established harmony. The monads do not interact, they synchronize. Like clocks wound by the prime monad, God. They tick in unison without touching. The body is an aggregation of monads ruled by a dominant monad, the soul. There is no death, only involution. No birth, only evolution. The city of God is an assembly of these lucid mirrors, reflecting the glory of the prime monad in infinite perspective. Theological orthodoxy and divine simplicity. We approach the scholastic doctor, Aquinas. The monad correlates to the doctrine of divine simplicity. God is actus purus, pure actuality without potentiality. In the Absolute One, there is no composition. No division between form and matter. No division between subject and accident. God does not have goodness, God is goodness. God does not have life, God is life. The Trinitarian controversy arises. How does the monad sustain the threeness? This is the mystery of perichoresis, circumincession. The persons are distinct in relation, yet identical in essence. The monad is not divided by the Trinity, but fully possessed by each hypostasis. The Father is the monad as source. The Son is the monad as logos. The Spirit is the monad as nexus. Mathematical logic collapses before the ontological Trinity. 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. Not 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. Hermeticism and the microcosm. As above, so below. The dictum of the Emerald Tablet. The monad is the macrocosm, the soul is the microcosm. The alchemical work is the reduction of the many to the one. The materia prima, the chaotic flux, must be transmuted into the philosopher's stone. The fixed, red monad of integration, the Ouroboros eating its own tail, is the symbol of this self-contained sufficiency. The magus seeks to align the personal center with the universal axis of the monad. To fail in this is to remain lead-heavy, dull, divided. To succeed is to become gold solar, radiant, singular. Modern physics and quantum holism. Do not neglect the secular theology of the physicists. The Big Bang is the expansion of the primeval monad. The singularity, infinite density, zero volume. From this single point, space-time unfurls. Quantum non-locality vindicates the ancient thesis that separation is an illusion of the senses. Entangled particles operate as a single system, regardless of the parsecs between them. Bohm's implicate order suggests a hollow movement. The universe is a single, flowing undivided wholeness. The many are merely ripples on the surface of the one. The grand unified theory is the search for the mathematical monad, the equation that describes the single force. Before it shattered into gravity, electromagnetism, and the nuclear weak, strong. The problem of the one and the many. This is the central agony of metaphysics. If the monad is infinite, how is there room for the finite? If the monad is perfect, whence comes evil? If the monad is immutable, why is there change? Spinoza answers, there is only one substance, God or nature. We are but modes of the one substance. Finitude is negation. Separation is a modal error. Pantheism posits the monad as the universe. Panentheism posits the universe within the monad. The rigors of logic demand a reconciliation. The many must be grounded in the one. Or else the universe is a disjointed heap of sand. But the one must allow for the many. Or else love is impossible, for love requires an other. Eschatological reduction. The teleology of the monad is inevitable. The omega point of Teilhard de Chardin. The universe is converging toward a final synthesis. The noosphere tightens, consciousness coalesces. Entropy is the drive toward disorder. But syntropy is the drive toward unity. At the end of the eon, the breathing of Brahma ceases. The expansion halts. The contraction begins. All souls, all atoms, all histories are drawn back into the event horizon of the divine monad. There is no I and thou in the final analysis. There is only the I am. The predicate dissolves into the subject. The distinct ceases to be separate. The intellect lays down its tools of dissection. The theology of words ends, the theology of presence remains. We return to the silence of the Pythagorean classroom. We return to the uncaused cause. We return to the indivisible. Coda, the absolute. It stands without feet. It speaks without a tongue. It is the circle whose center is everywhere. It is the silence between the thoughts. It is the monad. Indivisible. Invincible. Alone. One. The monad, an exegetical and ontological disquisition. An extended poem of sacred unity. The primordial unity. In the beginning was the one immutable, indivisible. The uncreated source, the divine archie, ineffable. From whom all emanates, yet remains unaltered. The Alpha and Omega, eternally unscathed. The monad, pure unity, perennial, self-sufficient. Beyond the grasp of mortal mind, beyond the realm of form. A point of infinite simplicity, beyond comprehension. The root of all being, the wellspring of divine norm. It is the sacred archie, the Epeiron of Anaximander. The unmoved mover of Aristotle's divine repose. The one of Pythagoras, the monad of the cosmos. Source of harmony, the rhythm of divine prose. In silent majesty, it pervades all, yet remains unseen. Unmanifested, the hidden ground of the sacred and the real. The luminous core of the divine, the absolute in solitude. The primal point, immutable, indivisible, supreme and ideal. It is the silent witness, beyond the worlds of multiplicity. The uncaused cause, uncaused, unconditioned, eternal. In whom all potentiality resides, in whom all essence is sealed. The divine unity and eternal, sacred, indivisible kernel. The ancient sages, with reverence, called it the Ein Sof. The infinite in Kabbalah, the Tao in the ancient East. The Unum in the Latin West, the Brahman in the Indian heart. The divine source, the root of all, the ultimate, the blessed. The emanation and the hierarchy of being. From the monad's silence, emanation begins. A divine overflow, an unfolding of light and form. From the ineffable depth to the manifested realm. A hierarchy of being, cosmos in perfect norm. First, the nous, divine intellect, the luminous mind. Reflecting the one in mirror divine. The first emanation, intelligence pure. The divine architect, the sacred design. Next, the logos, divine word, the divine rational principle. Binding chaos into cosmos, order from chaos. The divine speech that sustains the infinite. The sacred verbum, the divine voice in the abyss. Then, the soul, the intermediary, the anima mundi. The celestial harmony that moves the spheres. The divine breath animating all that lives. The bridge between the unmanifest and the apparent spheres. Hierarchies cascade from the one. Angels, archangels, seraphim, blessings from the divine source. All reflecting the unity in multiplicity. In sacred symmetry, in divine discourse. The monad remains the ultimate, the unchanging core. The uncaused cause that sustains the divine hierarchy. The wellspring of all existence, the primal seed. The divine monad, the sacred unity, eternally free. Theological monism and the divine unity. Within the sacred texts, the oneness is proclaimed. Shema Yisrael, the fundamental affirmation. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is one. An indivisible divine unity, unbroken, pure, eternal. This divine monism shatters the illusion of multiplicity. There is no division in divine essence, no duality. Yahweh's unity is the root of all divine economy. The sacred Echad, the indivisible one of eternity. In Christian revelation, the Trinity. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, an intricate unity. A divine mystery, a sacred harmony. One divine essence, in eternal communion. Distinct persons, yet indivisibly one. Islam's Tawhid, the absolute oneness. The divine unity unconditioned, unoriginated. All multiplicity is subordinate to the divine Ahad. The singular divine monad, unassailable, unconfined. Thus, the sacred monad underpins divine revelation. A unity beyond human comprehension. A divine Ensaf, an uncaused light. The ultimate ground of all divine cognition and soul's ascent. The philosophical monad, from Leibniz to modernity. Leibniz, the rationalist, declared. The monad is the ultimate substance, indivisible, free. A metaphysical point, a windowless core. Reflecting the universe in internal perception. Each monad contains within itself the entire cosmos. A mirror of the divine harmony. Pre-established by divine decrees. A metaphysical atom immutable, indivisible, eternally free. No interaction, only harmonized preordination. The divine orchestration, the pre-established harmony. The monad's perceptions are internal. No external influence, but divine synchronization. In modern science, the atom-atomus once thought indivisible. Now revealed as complex, structured, subatomic. Yet quantum indivisibility persists. Quanta, the minimal units. The fundamental indivisible packets of physical reality. Quantum entanglement, non-locality echoes of the monadic. A unity underlying apparent separateness. The wave function, the universal state. A holistic, indivisible field of potentiality. Cosmology speaks of singularities, points of primordial unity. The initial condition of the universe. From which all unfolds an indivisible point of infinite density. The ultimate monad of the cosmos, a sacred mystery. The monad as the ground of reality and the source of contingency. The monad is the unconditioned, the arche. The first cause, the uncaused, the necessary being. Grounding all contingent existence in divine necessity. The sacred Apeiron, the infinite source of all that is. All that exists flows from the divine unity. Emerging into multiplicity forms, energies, substances. Yet, beneath all phenomena, remains the unchanging core. The divine monad, the sacred, indivisible, eternal. In the silence of the divine, the seed of all potential resides. The divine blueprint, the archetype Imago Dei. From which the universe unfolds in divine semblance. In harmony, purpose, and sacred coherence. Contingent worlds, stars, worlds, beings. Are but reflections of the divine monad's eternal pattern. The sacred kernel from which all derives. The divine one, the divine heart, in infinite grace. Mystical union and the human aspiration. The soul, in its longing, seeks the one. A union with the divine, the sacred emanation. To reunite with the primordial source. The ultimate monad, the divine, unconditioned, pure. Mystics, Christian, Jewish, Sufi. Speak of unitive knowledge, gnosis, the divine union. A return to the source, the original harmony. Where individual consciousness dissolves into divine infinitude. The divine Echad, the indivisible unity. Is the goal of spiritual ascent. To realize that the self and the divine are one. In the sacred monad, the eternal, indivisible Son. This aspiration, transcendent and immanent. Is the sacred path of the soul's ascent. A journey from multiplicity to unity. From illusion to divine reality. The contemporary reflection and the sacred unity. Modern inquiry, scientific, philosophical. Reaffirms the monadic principle's relevance. In quantum fields, in the fabric of space-time. In the unifying quest for ultimate truth. The universe, from the singularity's core. Unfolds in a sacred unfolding. A divine dance of unity and multiplicity. The eternal monad, the sacred point of origin. The quest persists through reason and revelation. To comprehend the unconditioned, the divine core. The sacred Echad, the indivisible source. The divine Ein Sof, the eternal, the one. Conclusion, the sacred heart of all reality. In every tradition ancient and modern, the monad remains the silent, sacred truth. The indivisible point, first cause, ultimate ground. The divine unity, source of everlasting youth. It is the divine kernel, the sacred seed. The unconditioned, uncaused, eternally free. The heart of all that is, was, and will be. The divine Ihad, the sacred monad, the key. In contemplating the divine indivisibility, the soul awakens to its divine origin, and in the silence of the sacred core, finds the ultimate unity, divine and divine alone. The monad, a singular, indivisible, and eternal entity, invokes the essence of unity, a metaphysical singularity. Beyond the realm of multiplicity, a transcendent oneness. Echoing the Neoplatonic echoes of Plotinus Enneads. In the hallowed traditions of ancient Greek philosophy, the monad, or hen, denotes the ultimate, unknowable source. A unity that precedes all being, a fountainhead of existence, from which the cosmos emanates, a vast, hierarchical expanse. The concept of the monad finds its roots in Pythagorean thought, where the numerical one, the arithmos, represents the principle of unity. A generative, ontological foundation, from which all numbers flow. A mathematical metaphor for the unmanifest, absolute reality. In the Platonic paradigm, the monad corresponds to the good, the ultimate telos, the final cause, and the source of all value. A teleological principle, guiding the universe towards perfection. An eternal, immutable essence, beyond the flux of becoming. Aristotle, in his Metaphysics, critiques the Platonic notion, positing the monad as the unmoved mover, the prime mover. A self-thinking thought, a noesis noesios, a thinking of thinking. An unmoved, unchanging principle, causing motion without being moved. The Gnostic traditions, particularly Valentinianism, revere the monad as the ineffable, hidden God, the source of all emanation. A mystical, apophatic theology, emphasizing the limits of language. A transcendent, unitary principle, beyond the realm of duality. In the Eastern Orthodox tradition, the monad is akin to the concept of theosis, or deification, where the human soul participates in divine unity. A mystical union, beyond the boundaries of space and time. A unitive experience, where the individual ego is transcended. The Islamic philosophical tradition, particularly in Sufism, reveres the monad as the Wadat al-Wujud, the unity of being. A transcendent, all-encompassing reality, beyond the distinctions of subject and object. A mystical, intuitive knowledge, where the knower and the known converge. The monad also finds expression in the concept of the Shekinah. In Jewish mysticism, the divine presence, the indwelling of God. A feminine, nurturing principle, embodying the divine feminine. A unitive, immanent presence, within the heart of creation. In modern philosophical discourse, the monad has been revisited by thinkers such as Leibniz, who conceived of monads as fundamental metaphysical units, simple, indivisible, and windowless. A pluralistic universe, comprising an infinite number of monads. The concept of the monad has also influenced the development of mathematical and scientific thought, particularly in the realm of quantum mechanics, where the notion of non-locality and entanglement echoes the ancient, esoteric theme of the monad, the interconnected web of existence. The monad, a theologico-metaphysical prolegomenon. The absolute oneness, ipseity and aseity. From the abyss where all distinction fails to mark, emanates the concept, veiled yet stark, the monad. Not an entity, but the condition of all being, the Orgrund, the source beyond all human seeing. In its essential nature, it holds no duality, a boundless, self-subsistent absolute unity. It is the one of Parmenides, unmoved and whole, the hen of Plotinus, governing the cosmic soul. Its aseity being from itself, not from another, confirms its status as the original, final mother. Ipseity defined, self-identity unmarred, the seamless, singular point where all is safely starred. No accident inheres, no potential mars its grace, pure actuality that occupies no space. It is the ontological ground, the archi profound, where substance, essence, and existence are unbound by the constraints of temporal or material measure, the primal, simple, and inexhaustible treasure. Theology names it God, the Deus absconditus, metaphysics, the first principle, forever with us, yet transcendentally aloof, beyond conception's fray, the ultimate subject which no predicate can sway. Historical vectors, from pre-Socratic to Neoplatonic doctrine. The pre-Socratic whisper first conferred its name, Pythagoras saw in it the numeric flame. The decade's foundation, the singular prime core, from which all number, shape, and harmony pour. Geometry's point, position without dimensions girth, the necessary zero state before the world's birth. For Plato, it informed the form of the good, supreme, the intellectual sun casting the world's gleam. It transcends the noesis and the nous domain, the source of truth, beauty, and wisdom's steady reign. With Neoplatonism, the schema finds its peak, Plotinus's hen, which words are too weak to speak. It generates the nous, mind, the second hypostasis, through a necessary, non-volitional emanation basis. The monad is utterly simple, hence cannot think, but its superabundance causes reality to link. From the nous proceeds the psyche, soul, third in the line, and thence the entire cosmos, a cascade divine. This triadic structure nous, soul is the sacred key, to understand the hierarchical flow of reality. Proclus elaborated the monad's generative span, connecting the transcendent one to the world of man. Leibnizian refinement, monadology and the windowless soul. Centuries later, the concept takes a modern guise, in Leibniz's monadology, scrutinized by wise philosophic minds seeking system and rigor, to bridge the gulf between spirit and material figure. Here, the monad is no longer purely one, transcendent, but an infinite set of psychic, indivisible, independent substances, each a living mirror of the universe wide, reflecting the whole cosmos, with nothing to hide. These monads are windowless, having no ingress nor exit, their change is internal, a pre-programmed, perfect fit. No physical causation links one monad to the next, a complex dance explained by God, the monad context. God, the monad of monads, the original and final cause, established the pre-established harmony by his laws. This harmony ensures that the internal states of each soul coincide perfectly with every other, making the cosmos whole. The concept of the monad thus shifts its core location, from cosmic source to individual substantial formation. Yet the theological fact remains, the entire monadic chain requires a divine architect, to orchestrate the reign of perception, apperception, and minute-level desire, a sophisticated metaphysics fueled by sacred fire. Theological implicits, creatio ex nihilo and divine simplicity. Theology's encounter with the monad is fraught with care, protecting divine simplicity from the conceptual snare. The monad, as the one, must be without parts or passions, divested of all qualities that suggest finite fashions. It cannot be composed of form and matter, act and power, for composition implies dependence and a destructive hour. If God were composite, he would require a prior cause to unite his components, thus destroying his self-existent light. Therefore, the absolute monad is its own existence, identical with its nature, allowing no resistance. This simplicity undergirds the doctrine of creatio ex nihilo, creation not from pre-existing matter, but from the void's flow. The monad's absolute nature permits no shared space, hence the universe must emerge by will, not by an ontological trace of the monad itself in the matter it brings forth to birth, a radical break with emanation's earthly worth. Yet, the monad's immanence is also strongly felt, maintaining creation, the sustaining power dealt through providence and omnipresence without corporeal stay, the seamless paradox of its near yet distant sway. The covenantal relationship itself is predicated here, upon the singular Godhead, the one beyond all fear. Esoteric and Hermetic interpretations, the Ein Sof and inner light. Beyond the scholastic and rationalistic embrace, the monad finds a voice in Hermetic and mystical space. In the Kabbalistic tradition, the ultimate source is known as Ein Sof or limitless light, infinitely sown. The Ein Sof, the nothingness, the monad unmanifest, is the unutterable source, put eternally to the test of emanation, forming the Sephirothic tree divine, the 10 spheres descending, a perfectly structured design. The first Sephirah, Kether, crown, is the first instance of the One, the monad emerging from the nothingness it has outrun. It is the pure will, the primum mobile, setting things right, connecting the absolute monad to the world of day and night. In Gnosticism, the monad is the pleroma, the fullness of light, the eternal Father, dwelling beyond the veil of night. It stands apart from the demiurge, the lesser, flawed creator, the ultimate source of salvation, the soul's great locator. The esoteric view emphasizes the monad's immanent gleam, the spark of the divine held within the earthly stream. The goal, reunification with the source, the single aim, to realize the spark is identical with the fire's great name. This journey involves theosis, the deification of man, a return to the simplicity of the monad's original plan. Epistemological and ethical ramifications, the telos of knowing. The monad poses a crucial epistemological test: how can the simple be known by the composite and complex? If the monad is beyond form, beyond conceptual grasp, our knowledge of it must rely on negation's clasp. The via negativa, apophatic theology, asserts the only route, to state what the monad is not, resolving all doubt. It is not material, not temporal, not finite, not frail, a process of stripping attributes until concepts fail. The via affirmativa, cataphatic, only offers analogies weak stand, attributing perfect qualities that we can understand. God is good, God is true, God is beautiful, yet his essence exceeds the limited human meanings of these terrestrial deeds. The monad's structure dictates the ethical imperative clear, a striving for unity and the shedding of existential fear. The telos of human life is to align the composite self with the singular principle, abandoning all material pelf. The pursuit of virtue and wisdom reflects the monad's form, a simple, coherent life, weathering every storm. In academic discipline, the monad stands as the ideal aim, the unified field of knowledge, the truth that carries fame. The absolute coherence that underlies all inquiry, the ontological promise of perfect, pristine priority. Concluding scholium, the axiomatic ground. The monad remains the axiomatic ground of all inquiry, the necessary presupposition for the possibility of purity. It is the uncaused cause, the sustainer, the end toward which we trend, the alpha and omega upon which all systems depend. Its study is the ultimate philosophical and theological quest, to confront the absolute, and put the finite mind to rest. The final fact is its simplicity, its oneness, its isness defined, the ultimate subject of contemplation for all humankind. A principle of utter singularity, profoundly vast and deep, where metaphysics, theology, and the human spirit meet. The scholarly mandate demands its perpetual and rigorous scan, to approach the ineffable architecture of the divine plan. The monad is the one, the principium, the unpartitioned ground. It names unity before count, identity before difference. It is simplicity without remainder, actuality without division. It is the first, not in time, but an ontological priority. In Pythagorean doctrine, the monas precedes number as cause. Number is the articulation of unity, multiplicity is derivative. The Tetractys honors this order, from one, all proportionalities. The harmonies of cosmos echo the indivisible source. In Plato's unwritten doctrines, the one and the indefinite dyad stand. The one gives limit, the dyad gives indetermination. Together they yield the intelligible realm, the measured many. The monad is limit as intelligible measure, ratio as form. Plotinus speaks of the one beyond being, ineffable and absolute. The one is fecund, overflowing without deliberation. Emanation follows necessity, from one to intellect to soul. The monad radiates order, untouched by what proceeds. Proclus codifies the procession and return, triadic in logic. Remaining, procession, reversion, the movement of participation. Henads articulate unity to the many without division. The monad is prior even to the series of henads. In Aristotle, the prime mover is thought thinking itself. Causality is teleological, actuality is perfect contemplation. While not named monad, the unity of form grounds motion. The one is implied as ultimate actuality without potency. The Stoics affirm a rational unity immanent within matter. The logos spermatikos distributes order through pneuma. The total is a single conflagration in cycles of destiny. The monad is immanent norm, not transcendent absence. In Middle Platonism, the ineffable one yields the orders. The divine intellect contemplates forms as living paradigms. Soul mediates, shaping the cosmos in distributed symmetry. The monad anchors hierarchy, undiluted by mediation. In Gnostic literatures, the invisible spirit stands as one. Aeons proceed in syzygies, Sophia marks a crisis of desire. The pleroma is fullness, the kenoma is deficiency. The monad's transcendence contrasts the errant world. In Hermetic texts, the one God is mind and good. The creator is nous, addressing the receptive soul. As above, so below, unity is analogically refracted. The monad clarifies assent through knowing union. Judaic theology affirms Eshad, the Lord is one. Divine unity is unshared, incomparable, sovereign. Creation is ex nihilo, not emanation by necessity. The monad as God is personal, covenantal, commanding. In Christian dogma, God's simplicity denies parts. Essence and existence are identical in the divine. The Trinity names processions that preserve unity. The monad is the Godhead, one nature, three relations. Athanasius guards the consubstantial Son from division. Augustine speaks of divine ideas in God's single mind. Dionysius names the one beyond name by sacred negation. The monad is the good diffusing goodness without diminution. Thomas Aquinas secures simplicity and pure act. Divine attributes are not accidents, but identical in God. Creation is contingent, intentional, freely willed. The monad is ipsum esse subsistens, self-subsisting act. Scotus distinguishes formalities, yet not parts in God. The univocity of being clarifies metaphysical grammar. Freedom is rational, not arbitrary negation of order. The monad remains infinite without composition. Palamas distinguishes essence and energies without division. The uncreated light manifests divine presence. Participation is real, yet God remains simple. The monad communicates without undergoing change. Islamic Tawhid asserts God's unity uncompromised. The divine names disclose attributes without composition. Al-Ash'ari and Al-Maturidi refine metaphysical confession. The monad is one, eternal, creator, incomparable. Sufi discourse describes the one in gradations of nearness. Wadat al-Wujud articulates unity of being carefully. The real is singular, multiplicity is relational appearance. The monad shines through veils of names and forms. In Kabbalah, Ein Sof is infinite, ungraspable unity. The Sephirot articulate manifestation without parts. Tzimtzum narrates contraction, not literal vacating. The monad as Ein Sof exceeds all emanations. Vedic metaphysics points to Brahman as non-dual. Advaita asserts identity of Atman and Brahman. Saguna and Nirguna distinguish qualified and unqualified. The monad is pure awareness, beyond predicates. In Buddhist analysis, no eternal monad is posited. Emptiness denies inherent essence across aggregates. Yet dependent origination displays ordered coherence. The one appears as a negation of own being, not substance. Deist thought honors Deo as undivided source. The Deo gives birth to one, to two, to three, to 10,000 things. The monad is the uncarved block prior to naming. It manifests as balance without fixed form. In African philosophies, unity is relational vitality. The one lives as community, not mere count. Being is force, not inert substance in isolation. The monad is communal plenitude in metaphysical idiom. Indigenous cosmologies trace unity through kinship networks. Sacred relations stabilize multiplicities without fragmentation. The one is covenantal reciprocity across beings. The monad functions as balance in ritual time. In metaphysics, simplicity means absence of composition. No parts, no accidents, no potentiality in the first. Pure act grounds the actuality of all derivatives. The monad is ontological sufficiency without addition. Identity in the first is immunity to internal difference. Numerical unity is analogically derived from metaphysical unity. Count depends on sameness and distinction within multiplicity. The monad precedes cardinality as the ground of measurability. Efficient causality is attributed without temporal sequence. Final causality names purpose implicit in order. Formal causality structures the modes of being. The monad integrates causality without fragmentation. Creation ex nihilo diverges from emanation doctrines. The will of God is free, not necessitated overflow. The order is contingent, yet rationally intelligible. The monad is sovereign, not compelled by essence. Emanation affirms necessity from perfection to multiplicity. Procession follows ontological fecundity, not volitional choice. Return completes the circularity of metaphysical rhythm. The monad in Neoplatonism remains beyond relation. Controversy, is the one personal or impersonal? If personal, will and knowledge are identical and simple. If impersonal, intelligence proceeds downstream of unity. The monad's status dictates theology and devotion. Controversy, simplicity versus real distinction of attributes. Predications denote our mode, not God's composition. Analogy of being guards against anthropomorphism. The monad bears infinite perfection without partition. Controversy, Trinity and absolute unity without contradiction. Relations subsistent, not accidents, ensure identity. Persons are not parts nor separate substances. The monad sustains triune life in unbroken essence. Controversy, divine ideas, are they many in God? Augustine, ideas are one in the divine mind. Aquinas, exemplar causes unite as God's simple knowing. The monad thinks multiplicity without multiple thoughts. Controversy, divine knowledge of singulars without change. Knowledge is not discursive in the first. God knows by causing, not by receiving. The monad's knowing is identity with being. Controversy, freedom and necessity in the first cause. Freedom is perfect actuality, not potency to other. Necessity refers to God's self-being, not external acts. The monad acts ad extra without internal fluctuation. Controversy, presence immanence versus transcendence. Transcendence denies limitation, immanence secures governance. Panentheism mediates without diminishing simplicity. The monad remains beyond, within, and unlike the world. Controversy, language names and negations. Cataphasis asserts true predicates analogically. Apophasis denies unworthy modes and finite import. The monad exceeds both speech and silence. The good is convertible with being at the summit. Beauty is the radiance of form, truth is adequation. The one is source of transcendentals without partition. The monad grounds value, knowledge, and loveliness. In logic, unity is primitive for identity conditions. Set membership presupposes individuated entities. The one exceeds discrete enumeration, being principial. The monad is ontological, not merely mathematical. In mathematics, unity axiomatizes arithmetic. The Peano axioms begin with 0 or 1 as primitive. Yet metaphysical one is not numeric symbol. The monad is prior to formal abstraction. In category theory, a monad is an endofunctor with structure. Unit and multiplication encode algebraic effects. This monad is a structural pattern, not the first principle. The monad of metaphysics is prior to all categories. In Leibniz, monads are simple substances without windows.